In this video, we are going to work on dividing decimals by whole numbers. So something to keep in mind is that decimals can be divided similar to how whole numbers can be divided. So first of all, we're going to estimate. And with this one, we're going to make and estimate it to 510. And then we'll divide it by 10, which gives us an estimated answer of 51. So again, I'm looking for a list of multiples of 6 because that's what I'm going to end up dividing by. And those will help me later on in my problem. So again, in my multiplication table, my multiples are listed right there. And so here's my list. And again, we got those from right there in the multiplication table. So now we're going to take our 512 and 34 hundredths and divide it by 6. So, like we said, it's very similar to dividing with whole numbers until we get to the decimal here. So, 6 doesn't go into 5. So, we look at 51, and 6 goes into 51 8 times, which gives us 48. So, I'm going to subtract 48, and that gives me 3 left over. Bring down my 2. 6 into 32. Well, we'll fit in there 5 times. So I'm going to subtract 30 and leaves me with 2 left over. So now I'm here at my decimal. The only thing I need to do with my decimal is slide it straight up. So it fits right there. I'm just moving it from here right up to there. And then I'm going to continue on. So bring down my 3. 6 goes into 23 3 times. So that's 18. So I'm going to subtract. And that gives me 5 left. Bring down my 4. Gives me 54. 6 goes into 54 9 times, which is exactly 54. So then when I subtract, I have 0 left over. So right now, my answer looks to be 85 and 39 hundredths. So now I want to take a look at my estimated answer and my actual answer. So my estimated answer was 51. Actual answer was 85 and 39 hundredths. They're relatively close. I still think my answer is pretty reasonable. And so I think I did a good job of answering that. But we want to check just to make sure. And so we're going to, again, do the inverse. So take this number and we're going to multiply it by 6. So I take my 85 and 39 hundredths and I am going to multiply that by 6. And when I do that, we get 4, carry the 5. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 5 is 23. Carry the 2. 6 times 5 is 30, plus the 2. It's 32. Carry my 3. 6 times 8 plus the 3 gives me 51. And again, when I'm looking at my decimals, I want to make sure that I have my decimal in the right spot. So there's 2 numbers to the right of the decimal here. So I have to have 2 numbers to the right of the decimal here. And I get 512 and 34 hundredths, which is the same as this number here. And so I know that this answer is the correct answer to my division problem. So now we're going to take 62 and we're going to divide it by 8. So again, we need to estimate. So I'm going to estimate 62 to 60, and I'm going to divide that by 10, which gives me an answer of 6. And again, I'm going to be looking for the multiples of 8, so I can use those with my division. And I'm going to find those right here on my multiplication table. So the list that comes from there is right here. So again, They match up. So now we'll take 62 and we'll divide it by 8. So we'll set up our problem. And 8 doesn't fit into 6. So we need to go to 62 and it will go in there 7 times, which gives me 56. So I subtract those and that gives me 6 left over. But because I'm dividing with decimals now, I do not want a remainder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a decimal here, and then I'm going to put a 0 after it. Still represents 62, but I want to make sure that I have no remainders. So again, I'm going to take this decimal, slide it straight up, and then I'm going to bring my 0 down. And then I'm going to continue to divide just like I did. So 8 into 60 goes 7 times, which is 56. And I subtract, and that gives me 4. Again, I don't want a remainder because I'm working with decimals here. So I'm going to put another 0, and I bring that 0 down. So that gives me 40. 8 goes into 40 5 times, which is exactly 40. So I subtract that and I have 0 left over. So now I'm finished. So right now it looks like my answer is 7 and 75 hundredths. So now let's compare our estimate to our actual answer. Well, my estimate was 6. Actual answer is 7 and 75 hundredths. Well, those two numbers, they're pretty close to each other. So again, I'm feeling pretty good that what I did was correct. That seems like a pretty reasonable answer. But again, we want to check it. And so we are going to take this number here. And the inverse of division is multiplication. So we're going to multiply it by 8. And when I do that, I come up with 6,200. But again, I have a decimal in my multiplication problem. And so I want to take a look at that. And when I do that, I have one, two numbers after the decimal. And so here I want to go once, twice. And so I come up with 62.00, or that's the same as 62. They don't necessarily need those, which is the exact same number we have up here. So I know that this answer, 7 and 75 hundredths, is my answer, is the correct answer for my division problem.